Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are doing something a little different.
A little bit, yeah.
Usually, we take a dense piece of nonfiction, a business book, a scientific paper, a historical analysis, and we strip it for parts.
We look for the data, the hard evidence.
Exactly. We're looking for frameworks we can pull out and apply. But today, we are opening up a book that is deceptively simple. It looks like a collection of bedtime stories, but if you actually apply the frameworks inside, it functions more like a survival guide for the human psyche.
Yeah.
We're diving into Maktub by Paulo Coelho.
It is good to be here, and you are so right. The packaging of this source material is, well, it's misleading.
It really is.
People see the name Paulo Coelho, they immediately think of The Alchemist.
Right. Follow your dreams.
Exactly. They think follow your dreams, and they expect something soft, something fluffy.
Yeah.
Maktub is not soft. It's actually a collection of columns and fragments he wrote over a period of years for a Brazilian newspaper. And honestly, some of it is incredibly gritty. It just defies the standard categorization of a novel. It's less of a single story and more of a stack of mental models disguised as fables.
That is exactly why I wanted to cover it. That's the perfect description. A stack of mental models. I think there's a tendency to dismiss this kind of literature as woo or just, feel-good aphorism.
Sure, things you'd see on a motivational poster.
Exactly that. But when I was reading through the source material, I kept stopping and thinking, okay, that's actually a strategy for dealing with failure, or that is a framework for cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission for this deep dive is to navigate this stack of wisdom and extract the most practical mental models for you, for the learner. We want to bypass the guru vibe and get straight to the utility.
I love that approach. We're looking for the tools, not just the vibe. We want to see how these stories apply to someone prepping for a big meeting, dealing with a breakup, or just, trying to navigate a chaotic week.
Right. And before we even crack the spine, we have to talk about that title. Maktub. It sounds ancient. It sounds heavy.
It does. It translates literally from Arabic as "it is written."
It is written. Now, I have to be honest, and I'll play the skeptic right out of the gate here. When I first hear that phrase, my immediate reaction is a little bit of resistance.
I get that.
It sounds like fatalism. It sounds like, don't bother trying. The script is locked. You are just a puppet on strings. If everything is written, where's the agency? Why should I bother getting out of bed if the outcome of the day is already on the books?
That is the immediate tension, isn't it? It feels like a prison sentence.
Yeah.
It feels like the removal of choice. But this is where we have to look at the source material closely, because Coelho addresses this right out of the gate. He notes that for the Arabs, "it is written" isn't actually considered a perfect translation of the feeling behind the word.
So it's a translation issue, a cultural mismatch.
In a way, yeah. The text explains that "it is written" isn't about some tyrant God micromanaging your misery. The interpretation here is that God is compassionate, and he wrote the script to help us, not to trap us.
Help us how? By what, spoiling the ending?
Well, think of it not as a rigid script that turns you into a robot, but more like a map or a safety net. Or, to use a modern analogy, think of it like a well-designed video game level.
Okay, I like that.
The layout is written, the obstacles are placed, the boss battle is scheduled. You didn't design the level,
Right.
but how you play it, the speed you go, the strategy you use, the attitude you bring to it, that is entirely up to you.
So the path is there, but the walking is mine.
The universe isn't conspiring to bore you or control you. It's conspiring to guide you.
Ah.
The events are written in the sense that the destination and the lessons are prepared, but the walking, that is still up to you.
I like that distinction. It really shifts the vibe from I'm a prisoner of fate to I'm on a guided expedition. The mountain is there. I didn't put it there, but I still have to do the climbing.
Exactly.
So let's set the stage for what this book actually is. As you said, we aren't following one main character through a plot like we did in The Alchemist.
No. Instead, we have a recurring figure who's often referred to as the master,
Yeah.
and he dispenses wisdom. But we also have this cast of characters that is just wildly diverse.
Right.
We have Christian mystics, we have Zen Buddhist monks, we have stories from all sorts of folklore.
And it isn't just ancient holy men in robes, right? I mean, there's some very modern, very gritty examples in here.
Absolutely. You will find a drunk in Fort Lauderdale interrupting a lunch date. You will find a famous physicist crossing the street in London.
I love that.
It's a stack of wisdom that pulls from everywhere. It democratizes insight. It basically argues that the universe is talking to you through the monk and through the drunk.
Hmm.
You just have to listen.
Which is what we are all about here. We want to move beyond the surface level positive thinking that people sometimes associate with this genre. Coelho has a very nuanced view on defeat, on fear, and on what he calls the personal destiny. It isn't all sunshine. There's a lot of grit in Maktub.
So let's jump into the first major theme. We can't talk about It Is Written without talking about this dance between fate and free will. Because even if we accept that video game level analogy, it still feels unfair when things go wrong.
Right. It feels like the game is rigged. And there's a story early in the text that I think perfectly captures this messiness. It involves a wanderer in New York.
Oh, yeah.
And I think anyone listening who has ever lived in a city or owned a car is going to feel this one in their bones.
This is a great example of what we might call the butterfly effect of fate. So the wanderer is having a terrible morning. I mean, the classic bad day.
He oversleeps. He misses an appointment that was, crucial for his work. And then the cherry on top. He walks out to find his car has been towed.
And in New York City, that is not a small problem.
No.
That is a bureaucratic nightmare. It's a huge fine. It's hours. Standing in line at the impound lot is that feeling of total powerlessness. So he's spiraling. He's late. He's broke. He's frustrated. But then his mind drifts back to something that happened the day before. He had found a dollar bill on the street.
Just a single dollar.
Right. And in the midst of this disaster with the car, he starts connecting dots. He wonders, did finding that dollar somehow mess up the written path?
That is such a human reaction, isn't it? We always look for the cause. We're pattern-seeking machines. He thinks, I picked up money that wasn't mine, so now the universe is punishing me by towing my car.
It's a transaction. He thinks, maybe I took that dollar from someone who really needed it. Maybe I interfered with what was written. He feels this need to restore equilibrium.
To balance the books.
He wants to get rid of the cursed dollar. So he sees a beggar and he hands it to him.
Thinking, okay, debt paid, karma fixed, maybe the tow truck will magically disappear.
Exactly. But the beggar isn't just a prop in the wanderer's morality play. The beggar stops him and says, I'm a poet. I want to read you a poem in return.
And the wanderer is impatient. He's checking his watch. He's like, make it short. I'm rushing to the impound lot. He's still stuck in his own story of disaster.
But the beggar delivers one of the heaviest lines in the book.
Yeah, he does.
He says, if you are still living, it's because you have not yet arrived at the place you should be.
Wow. If you are still living, it's because you have not yet arrived at the place you should be. That hits hard.
It completely reframes the entire morning. The towed car, the fine, the lateness. It wasn't a punishment for finding a dollar on the street.
No.
It was just part of the process of not having arrived yet. It suggests that we are constantly interacting with a larger script, and what we interpret as bad luck is often just a plot twist we don't understand yet.
So the universe wasn't punishing him, it was redirecting him.
Maybe. Or maybe just slowing him down. The wanderer thought he was balancing the books of the universe with a dollar, but the universe was trying to get him to stop, to slow down and listen to a poet on the street corner.
It's interesting because it implies that we are always exactly where we need to be, even if where we are is standing in line at the impound lot.
Right.
It kills that I'm behind schedule anxiety. You can't be behind schedule if the schedule is being written in real time.
Correct. And that is a huge mental relief if you can actually internalize it.
But if we're always where we need to be, does that mean we are passive? Do we just sit back and let the car get towed? There is another story that challenges that passivity, involving a shepherd in the Pyrenees.
This is one of my favorites in the collection because it addresses the theological problem of free will, using, of all things, acoustics.
Right.
A hiker is arguing with a shepherd. The hiker is making a very logical point. He says, look, if I believe in God, I have to admit I'm not free. If God governs every step, I'm just a robot. My choices don't matter.
Which is a valid point. It's the age-old debate, determinism versus free will.
But the shepherd doesn't argue with logic or scripture. He takes the hiker to a ravine, a place with a perfect echo. And he says, life is these walls, and fate is the shout that each of us makes.
Oh, I love that. Life is the walls, fate is the shout.
He explains that what we do, our shout, is raised to God's heart and then returned to us in the same form. God acts as the echo of our own deeds.
That is such a powerful flip of the script. It means Maktub isn't about God dictating what you say. It's about the universe reflecting your input.
Yeah.
You shout anger into the canyon. You get an echo of anger. You shout love. You get an echo of love.
It moves the concept of "it is written" from passive acceptance to active participation. The walls are written, the laws of physics, the nature of reality, the circumstances you're born into. Those are the canyon walls. You didn't build the canyon.
Right.
Or the shout. The shout is yours, and the echo is inevitable. It's just physics.
So we have the script and we have the echo, but there is a danger in trying to read this script too closely, right? We think we see signs everywhere. We think we know what the echo is going to be.
We are addicted to predicting the future. And the source material warns us very clearly about the ego involved in reading signs. There's the story of King Croesus of Lydia. This is a historical legend.
Right, from Herodotus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Croesus wants to attack Persia. He is itching for a fight. He wants to expand his territory, but he wants divine permission.
He wants the rubber stamp from the oracle. He wants to be able to say, the gods made me do it if it goes wrong.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He asks the Greek oracle at Delphi, what will happen if he attacks? The oracle gives a very famous, very ambiguous answer. If you attack, you are fated to destroy a great empire.
And Croesus hears exactly what he wants to hear. There's no ambiguity in his mind.
None. He thinks, awesome, I'm going to crush Persia. He attacks. And he is obliterated. His army is destroyed. His capital is sacked. He's taken prisoner.
So he's furious. He feels betrayed.
He is. He sends a message back to the oracle saying, you lied to me. You said I would destroy a great empire.
And the oracle's response is just ice cold.
The oracle says, I didn't lie. You did destroy a great empire, your own.
Ouch. That is brutal.
And the takeaway here is so crucial for the learner. We often twist signs or intuition to fit what we already decided we want to do. Croesus wanted war, so he interpreted the ambiguity as a green light.
It's confirmation bias, ancient Greek style.
It is. True wisdom, according to Maktub, is reading the signs without the filter of your own ego. It's asking what is actually being said here, rather than how can I make this support my bad idea?
You have to be willing to hear the answer you don't want.
And that's the hardest part.
Okay, let's move to section 2. This is about the personal destiny. That's a big term in Coelho's universe. But usually when people talk about destiny, they talk about glory, they talk about the finish line. Maktub seems to spend a lot of time talking about the thing that stops us from chasing it, fear.
And not just fear, but the paralysis of fear. The misunderstanding of what fear actually is. There's a great anecdote about Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, we think of Napoleon as this fearless conqueror, the guy on the white horse crossing the Alps. But the story places him at the bombardment of Toulon. He's young, and he is trembling, visibly shaking.
And a soldier actually mocks him for it, right?
Yes. A soldier sees him shaking and says, look at him, he's scared to death. And Napoleon's response is just brilliant. He admits it. He says, yes, I am, but I go on fighting.
And then the kicker.
If you felt half the fear I feel, you would have fled a long time ago.
That distinction, that bravery isn't the absence of fear, but action despite fear is something we hear often. But seeing it framed through Napoleon is really helpful. It validates the feeling.
It does.
It means if you're shaking before a big presentation or a difficult conversation, you aren't weak.
It validates the intensity of the feeling. In fact, the text suggests that fear is a sign you're taking the situation seriously. If you aren't afraid during a bombardment, you're probably crazy or stupid.
Right. Fear is data.
Fear is data. It tells you this matters or this is dangerous. Napoleon used the fear. The soldier just judged it from a distance.
There's also a more personal story in there about a 10-year-old boy, presumably the Wanderer, or Coelho himself, at a swimming course.
The bridge jump. Yes.
Yeah, he has to jump off a bridge into a river. It's the final test. And he is paralyzed. He waits in line, and every time someone else jumps, he gets more scared. He is suffering in the anticipation.
That is the key. The suffering of anticipation. The instructor sees this happening, sees this kid spiraling, and he pulls him out of the line and makes him jump first.
Which seems cruel. Oh, you're scared. Go now.
You'd think so, but it was the only cure. The text says there is nothing worse than delay. By pushing him immediately, the fright was replaced by courage. The longer you stand on the edge of the bridge looking down, the bigger the distance seems.
Your brain starts inventing scenarios that aren't real.
Exactly. You start imagining all the ways it could go wrong. The instructor short-circuited that process.
It's the ripping off the Band-Aid method. But sometimes the fear isn't about a specific event, like a jump. Sometimes it's a fear of change itself. The fear that changing means dying.
And for that, Maktub gives us the fable of the lizard. This is a very sweet, very sad story that turns triumphant.
So set the scene.
There's this lizard who just hates his life. He's crawling on the ground, he feels ugly, he envies the birds flying overhead.
He's got serious self-esteem issues. He feels small and condemned.
He does. But then Mother Nature comes to him and says, "It's time to make a cocoon." And the lizard panics. He has never seen a cocoon. He thinks he's being asked to build his own coffin.
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. He complains to God, saying, "Just when I got used to being a miserable lizard, you'd take even that away from me."
Just when I got used to things. That is the trap, isn't it? We get comfortable, even in our misery.
We absolutely do. We prefer a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven. The lizard thinks the cocoon is the end. He locks himself in, despairing, thinking this is it. But of course, we know the biology.
He doesn't stay a lizard.
He emerges as a butterfly.
The deep dive here is that we often view the cocoon phase of our lives, the dark, tight, uncomfortable transitions, as punishments.
We view them as death. We think, my life is over, when actually the lizard life is over, so the butterfly life can begin. It requires a death of the old self.
You can't be both at the same time.
No. If the lizard clung to being a lizard, he would never fly. The text is telling us that if you're in a dark place, enclosed and feeling like it's the end, you might just be building a cocoon.
Speaking of endurance and long struggles, there's this metaphor of the bicycle race. I found this one really relatable.
It's a great metaphor for that personal destiny journey. Life is a bike race. At the start, everyone is together. It's social, there's camaraderie, everyone is fresh, it's easy to start a new project or a company or a new habit.
The starting line is always a party.
Exactly. But then comes the middle. The exhaustion sets in. The loneliness, the hills get steeper, the curves in the road. And this is where the trap appears. The text mentions the support car.
And people stop to talk to the support car.
Right. They give up, or they settle for a slower pace. And they start chatting with the support crew or other quitters. It's comfortable, it's warm in the car, you get snacks, you get validation for quitting.
Oh, the hill was too steep, you did the right thing by stopping. You get to complain with other people who also stopped.
But the text is very firm here. You must confront the solitude to win your own race. If you are chatting with the support car, you aren't riding, you've tapped out.
It reminds us that the path to anything worth doing eventually gets lonely. And that isn't a sign something is wrong. It's a sign you're in the middle of the race.
Correct. The solitude is part of the price of the ticket. You have to be willing to ride alone for a while.
Let's shift gears to section 3. This is where Maktub starts poking holes in organized religion, or rather, the performance of religion.
Yes.
Coelho seems to have a real issue with people who act holy but lack heart.
He distinguishes between pious complexity and simple authenticity. The best example of this is the story of the juggler in the monastery.
So set the scene for us on that one.
It's a legend. Our Lady, the Virgin Mary with the infant Jesus, visits a monastery. The monks are losing their minds trying to impress her. They're reciting complex poetry, showing off their illuminated Bible manuscripts, listing the names of saints.
It's a competition.
It is. It's a contest of, look how holy and learned I am.
And then there's the juggler.
A humble monk who was formerly a circus performer. He has no Latin. He has no theology. He feels totally inadequate. He's hiding in the back, ashamed.
But he wants to give something.
He wants to show love. So terrified and embarrassed, he pulls out some oranges and starts juggling.
The other monks must have been horrified. That feels almost blasphemous.
They were ready to throw him out. They thought it was deeply disrespectful. But the story says the infant Jesus smiles and claps his hands. And the Virgin Mary holds out her arms only to him to let him hold the baby.
Because the juggling was real? It was his honest gift? It wasn't a performance?
It was authentic joy. The analysis here is that performative ritual doing things because this is how we do it is dead weight compared to a moment of simple, authentic connection. The juggler gave what he had, not what he thought he should have.
This theme of breaking the rules of behavior continues with a quote that made me laugh out loud. To be consistent is always to wear a tie that matches one's socks.
It's a fantastic line, isn't it? It challenges our obsession with consistency. We often feel we have to hold the same opinion today that we held yesterday, otherwise we are flip-flopping or unstable.
Right, that we're somehow unreliable if we change our minds.
But the text says the universe moves. You should too.
I love that.
Exactly. If the planet is spinning and moving through space, why are you standing still intellectually? There's a story about Arthur Rubinstein, the famous pianist. Apparently he was known as a bit of a miser. a cheapskate.
He watched his pennies. He was very, very careful.
But one day, he invites his friends to a lavish lunch. Expensive wine, the works. He's there with a young blonde. He pays the huge bill with a big smile. His friends are just shocked. They ask, "Arthur, what is going on? Did you hit your head?"
And his reasoning is surprisingly practical, isn't it?
Very. He says he had just gone to his lawyer to prepare his will. He saw that he was leaving all his money to others, relatives, charities. He realized he wasn't included in his own will.
He left nothing for Arthur.
Right. So he decided to start treating himself while he was alive. It's a great example of breaking your own pattern. He was consistently cheap until he realized that consistency was robbing him of life. So he changed. He contradicted himself. And the text says that is your right.
But sometimes acting holy isn't just boring, it's actually annoying or even destructive.
There is a recurring theme that extreme holiness or rigid discipline can snap. There's the story of the archer and the drinking monks.
Okay.
An archer sees a group of monks drinking and relaxing, and he criticizes them. "You guys are supposed to be disciplined. You're holy men. What is this?"
And the elder monk uses the archer's own weapon against him, so to speak.
He does. He asks, "If you shoot 100 arrows in a row, what happens to the bow?" The archer says, "Well, it breaks." The lesson is obvious. You must unstring the bow.
You have to relax the tension.
You must relax the tension to maintain the power. If you are holy 2047, you break. You become brittle.
And then there's the devil and the holy man. This one is a trickster story.
It is. The devil dresses up as the archangel Gabriel. He appears to a holy man, ready to tempt him or deceive him. He looks magnificent, shining light, the whole deal. But the holy man doesn't bow down. He just keeps walking.
And what does he say?
He says, "You must have the wrong guy. I have done nothing to deserve an angel."
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that humility is what saves him. If he had been proud of his holiness, he would have said, "Finally, I knew I was special enough for a visit from Gabriel." And he would have been trapped.
He would have fallen right into it.
His belief that he wasn't special was his armor. His pride would have been his downfall.
That is such a subtle, trapped spiritual pride, thinking you are so good that you deserve the vision or the promotion or the praise.
It's the ultimate defense against deception, radical humility.
Moving on to section 4, we've talked about monks and archers, but Maktub insists that wisdom is often hiding in unexpected, even mundane places.
It emphasizes the spaces between, the moments where we aren't trying so hard. The story of Roger Penrose is the headline here.
Penrose, the physicist.
Yeah.
The Nobel laureate.
Yes. The story goes that he was walking with friends, talking animatedly about something completely different. They come to a street crossing, and you know how it is. When you cross a busy street, the conversation naturally pauses. You look left, you look right, you focus on the traffic.
Right, you enter this little bubble of silence, the silence of the crosswalk.
In that silence, Penrose had a flash of an idea. But then they reached the other side, the conversation resumed, and he forgot it. It was gone. Later that day, he felt this strange euphoria, but didn't know why.
He just had a good feeling.
A really good feeling. He retraced his day mentally until he got back to that moment of silence, and boom, the idea returned.
And it wasn't just a grocery list or something trivial.
It was the theory of black holes, a revolutionary physics concept. The takeaway is that the breakthrough didn't happen during the deep intellectual conversation. It happened in the silence between the words. The aha moment lives in the gap.
It makes you wonder how many great ideas we miss because we fill every second with noise or podcasts, ironically.
Well, indeed. We need the silence of the street crossing. We need to allow for those gaps.
Then there's the lesson of the banana. This one feels very zen. A monk in Nepal uses a banana to explain life to a traveler.
It's a great visual aid. He pulls out a rotten banana, all black and mushy. He says, "This is a life that ran its course unused. It's wasted potential." Then he shows a green banana. "This is a life not yet ready. You can't force it."
And then he peels and eats the ripe one.
The present moment. Live it without fear. It's so simple, but it cuts through so much anxiety. We obsess over the rotten past or the green future, and we starve in the present.
And sometimes the present moment involves a drunk guy in Fort Lauderdale. This story made me cringe a little because we've all been there. You're at a nice lunch, and someone loud and intoxicated interrupts.
Right. The wanderer is with a lawyer friend, a very serious person. The drunk is annoying, insisting on talking to them. The friend tries to shush him, saying, "Sir, this isn't the appropriate time."
And the drunk drops a truth bomb on them.
He asks, "You mean there are only certain times that are appropriate for showing one's happiness?" He points out that he's talking about love. He's happy. Sure, he's drunk, but he's the only one in the restaurant freely discussing love and connection.
It forces us to question our social scripts. We are so appropriate that we're cold. The drink was messy, but he was warm. He was alive.
It challenges our judgment. We judge the messenger and we miss the message entirely. We're so quick to dismiss the source that we don't hear what's being said.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 5, dealing with judgment, pain, and scars. Because if we're living this written life, we are going to get hurt. We're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And Coelho has a very specific view on scars. He says scars are trophies. Or, more vividly, he calls them the marks of handcuffs.
The marks of handcuffs. Explain that.
Yes. Think about it. If you have a scar on your wrist from a handcuff, what does it mean? It means you aren't in the handcuffs anymore.
You escaped.
You escaped. You are a prisoner, and now you are free. The scar isn't a sign of injury. It's a proof of healing and freedom. It's evidence of a battle won.
That is a beautiful reframing. Instead of looking at a scar and thinking, I was hurt, you think, I survived.
Exactly. But while we deal with our own scars, we also have to deal with how we judge others. And there's a story about the leaking bucket of sins that visualizes this perfectly.
The hermit judge.
A monk commits an error. The brothers in the monastery call a wise hermit to come and judge him. The hermit doesn't want to come, but they insist. So he arrives, but he's carrying a bucket of sand with holes in the bottom. Sand is trailing out behind him as he walks.
Like a breadcrumb trail of sand.
No.
And the others ask, what are you doing?
He says, my sins run out behind me where I cannot see them, yet I come to judge another.
Wow. It's a physical demonstration of hypocrisy.
It stops the trial cold. The monks realize they're all leaking buckets. It cancels the judgment. How can you judge another person's leaks when your own sand is spilling everywhere?
But forgiveness isn't just about letting others off the hook. The text makes a point that it's about hygiene for yourself.
Forgiveness as hygiene. I like that phrasing. The text says a person who forgives is washing and perfuming his own heart. It's not a favor to the enemy, it's a favor to you. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
There's a story of an abbot who refused to forgive a brother who offended him. He was holding this bitter grudge.
And he tries to pray, but he's so full of anger he can't connect.
So what does he say?
He prays, my Jesus, we don't need you anymore. We can take vengeance into our own hands. You can leave.
Whoa, that's a bold prayer.
It was a shock tactic. For himself. He heard himself saying those words and realized the insane arrogance of it. We don't need you. We can handle the revenge. It shocked him into forgiveness. He realized that holding the grudge was effectively firing God from his life.
But we have to be careful. Even doing good deeds can be corrupted if we're selfish. The story of the spiderweb to paradise is frankly terrifying.
It is. It's about an evil man at the gates of hell. An angel asks if he did one good thing in his entire life. He has to think hard, but he remembers he once saved a spider in the forest. He stepped around it instead of on it.
So a spiderweb lowers from heaven to pull him up, a fragile thread of salvation.
Exactly. He starts climbing, but then other condemned souls see the web and they start climbing up after him.
And the man panics.
He shouts, get off, it's my web, it won't hold us all. And he starts kicking them off.
And that's when it breaks.
It breaks because he kicked them. The text implies that the web was strong enough for everyone, or perhaps that the act of sharing it was what made it strong. His selfishness, his me-first attitude, turned his one good deed back into evil. He fell right back down.
That is a heavy warning. You can't climb to paradise by kicking others down.
Salvation is not a zero-sum game. Your success doesn't require someone else's failure.
Let's move to the final section of the source material, the nature of prayer and God. Maktub seems to suggest that God isn't as picky about the how as we think he is.
God is a polyglot. He speaks all languages, including the language of the clumsy and the uneducated. There's the Aztec prayer story. A missionary meets 3 Aztec holy men. He asks how they pray.
And their prayer is incredibly simple.
They say, you are 3, we are 3, have pity on us.
That's it.
Simple, honest. But the missionary's like, no, that's not proper. He teaches them a long, formal Catholic prayer. Years later, the missionary ship is leaving, and he sees the 3 men walking on the water toward his ship.
Walking on water.
They are distressed. Say, Father, please teach us that prayer again. We forgot the words.
And the missionary realizes.
He realizes that if they can walk on water with you are 3, we are 3, they don't need his Latin prayer. Their connection was pure. He was the one who needed the lesson.
There's a similar vibe in the alphabet prayer. A boy in a synagogue who doesn't know the verses.
Right. He doesn't know the formal prayer, so he just recites A, B, C, D. He tells God, I don't know the words, so I'll give you the letters. and you can arrange them into the right words.
That is beautiful. It's all about intent.
The rabbi overhears this and calls it a pure prayer. It confirms that the mechanics of prayer matter far less than the heart behind it.
The text also makes a really interesting distinction between two gods.
Yes, this is a crucial mental model for the learner. The source says there are two concepts of God that people hold. First, the God of the professors, the God of fear, hellfire, rigid rules, the one who crushes us under the weight of our sins.
The God who is checking if your tie matches your socks.
Exactly. And then there's the second God, the God of compassion, of daily life, of liberation, the God who says it is written to help you, not to trap you.
So it's a choice of which God you believe in.
The expert insight here is that we often project our own rigidity onto the divine. If we are rigid and judgmental, we create a rigid and judgmental God. If we are free and compassionate, we find a liberating and compassionate God.
And finally, there's the idea that action itself is a prayer. You don't have to be on your knees to be praying.
The story of Brother John. He wants to be like an angel. He thinks angels just contemplate glory and do no work. So he quits his job, stops working, and goes to the desert to contemplate.
And gets hungry.
Very hungry. He comes back to the monastery starving. The gatekeeper says, "Wait, aren't you an angel now? Angels don't eat."
A bit of a reality check.
A huge one. The lesson is, if you are a man, you must work. Work is the way humans contemplate glory. We aren't angels. We are embodied creatures, doing our work well, feeding ourselves, helping others. That is our contemplation. That is our prayer.
So we've unpacked a lot. We've gone from the toad car in New York to the spider web in hell. If we have to synthesize this into a final takeaway for our listeners, how do we wrap up Maktub?
I think we have to go back to the concept of the two tapes. The master says that when we want to change, we have to play two tapes in our mental VCR.
A mental VCR that's dating the text a bit, but I like it.
It works. We need the tape of our defeats. We have to watch it to learn, to see where we went wrong, to gain experience. But if we only watch that tape, we become paralyzed. We feel like losers.
So we need the second tape.
The tape of our successes, our victories, the times we got it right. But if we only watch that tape, we become arrogant. We think we're invincible and we stop learning.
So the synthesis is balance. You need both humility and confidence.
We need both.
Yeah.
Maktub is about the collaboration between the written path, which includes our defeats and our context, and our own courage to walk it, which creates our successes.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought. It's a story from the text that I think captures the heart of everything we've discussed. It's the story of the fourth wise man.
Ah, yes.
We all know the three wise men who brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to Jesus. But legend says there was a fourth.
Artaban.
Right, Artaban. He was supposed to go with them, but on his way to the meeting point, he stopped to help a dying man on the side of the road.
And in doing so, he missed the caravan. He missed the star.
He spent his whole life trying to catch up. He followed the footsteps of Jesus for 30 years. He went to Egypt, Galilee, Bethany, but he was always late. And every time he had a jewel to give to the king, he ended up selling it to help someone in need, a hungry child, a prisoner.
His mission kept getting sidetracked by his compassion.
Exactly. Finally, he arrives in Jerusalem on the day of the crucifixion. He is old, he is dying, and he has nothing left. He thinks he has failed his life's mission. He never met the king. He never gave his gift.
But then he hears a voice.
And the voice says, "Contrary to what you are thinking, you have been with me all your life. I was naked, and you dressed me. I was hungry, and you fed me. I was imprisoned, and you visited me."
That gives me chills every time.
Me too. He thought he was missing the point, the destination, the manger, the cross. But the point was the interruptions. The point was the people he helped along the way.
It brings us full circle back to the beginning. If you are still living, it's because you have not yet arrived. But Artaban's story tells us that the arriving isn't the point. The walking is the point. The interruptions are the mission.
So, to our listener, are you so focused on where you think you should be that you're missing the God in the interruption right in front of you? Are you angry about the toad car, or are you looking for the poet on the sidewalk?
It is written, but you are the one who has to read it and live it.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.